Folks, hello and welcome to the Random Party Generator, yes, the RPG live stream. With me, I'm going to introduce our regulars. Below me, Rob Conley, Bat in the Attic, Black Marsh, many other fine things. The the Chubby Fonz icon is Greg Christopher, Ambition and Avarice, and lots of supplements right now for Shadow Dark. Welcome,
including
Greg.
Shadow Sun.
Yes, very popular. And with us as a special guest today, none other than Phil Reed. Phil Reed of Steve Jackson Games. Formerly, what you were the chief operating officer, the
I
coup.
was the chief executive
Oh,
officer.
chief executive. Okay,
Yes.
chief executive officer. I have followed Phil's stuff since he had like a newsletter back in the days that I was using Yahoo as my main email address. So just puts that into a timely reference of how long I've known of Phil and seen him come up through the industry. So Phil, thank
Well,
you
I
for
have
being.
you beat. I known him when I was on Illuminati Online. I would dial up Texas. They had the best internet service for a while there, although I can only be on there briefly because of long distance charges. But it wasn't until a year later that my town got anything decent.
Wow. All right.
Basically, we're all old, is what I'm hearing.
Greg's in his 40s. The rest of us are uh, in that retirement age zone. Yes.
Well, I'll be 51 next month. So
Okay. So you're almost the baby of the group.
I got a couple more years in me.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said before we went live, you've got that recently retired look going. I know you're not fully retired, but you like when cops retire, the first thing that we do is we grow into goatee, grow the hair long, try to get that ponytail. We never get it, but we try it. Um, I can see that you've gotten that relaxed look. It's a good look.
Thank
Congratulations.
you. It's the I've been writing a lot look.
Fair enough. Now you mentioned right before we went live that was it 9 Kickstarters for 2023 so far?
I'm on Kickstarter number 9 for 2023 so far. One of them, the books just landed yesterday and shipping's going to start right away. Another one is still in editing, and the other 6 that have been run are all fulfilled completely. And number 9 ends on Monday. Everything's written, everything's laid out. It's moving into the editing phase. Right now, it is 3 different titles, and the next stretch goal is like $400 away for a 4th title, and all 4 of those are fully written and laid out and ready to go into editing.
So now, your latest project, and you've covered projects across the board, whether it's been Morkborg, OSR, System Neutral. Actually, my first question is, how do you decide what you're going to write about? Like system-wise, certainly part of it.
It's just whatever I feel like. I've usually got half a dozen to a dozen different projects in various stages, and a lot of what will happen is they'll just reach this tipping point, and I'm like, oh, this is the one I'm finishing next, and I'll just jump in and do it. The current Kickstarter, all 4 of these titles were written in the last 4 to 5 weeks, and they were done specifically for this campaign.
Really?
Now at SJ Games, you guys had to run a pretty tight ship because you had some expensive physical products going out the door, and you had a regular schedule. Now, your work now, how does it compare to that? Is it a little bit more like you're just jamming and ad-libbing as you go?
That's always been my approach, is just run with whatever I'm most interested in that exact moment. The rigid needs of a larger company where you're trying to take care of dozens of people requires that you have a bit more planning and a schedule. Whereas if it's just like me, my editor who's working with me basically full time now, and a fulfillment assistant, I've got a lot more flexibility. And every now and then, like I ran a Troika Kickstarter last month for a new card deck. super tiniest Kickstarter I did all year, but it was fun. The cards, it's a deck of cards. Actually, it's a deck of spell cards, and they're just extremely silly spells. And it was a tiny campaign, but it's over. I mean, it's fully fulfilled, and it was minorly profitable. I mean, if I'd spent the time doing something else, it would have made more money. But if all I ever wanted to do was make money, I would go work in a completely different industry. I want to make sure that I'm also having a lot of fun with this.
Yeah, isn't that saying that if you want to make $1 million in RPG, you start with 2 million?
Basically, yes. Though these days, from what I can tell, if you want to make $1 million in RPGs, you probably start with 3 or 4 million.
Yeah, I mean, especially depending on the companies you're looking for. Now, you can be like Kelsey with Shadow Dark and have a good concept, good production values, and timing. I think timing was at least half of what she hit. She hit like 1.365. I'm going to say that at least half of that was the FU to the OGL that was going on at the time, that she got a lot of disgruntled 5e players. And you can't predict that. You know, but you can assist it by production quality. She spent her time writing other material. You have been in this industry for over 2 decades, possibly 3. I don't know.
Not quite 3, though. Technically, now that I think about it, my very first fanzine I was publishing was in 1993, but the first professional work that I did was in 1995.
Now,
so I'm still a couple of years away.
Now you said Trioka, those cards, spell cards for Trioka. Did I say that right?
Troika.
Troika were like your smallest Kickstarter. So how do you figure things so you remain profitable so you can do the next Kickstarter and not get yourself in a jam?
The Troika cards were specifically designed as no physical shipping. The rewards were print-on-demand codes for Drive-Thru RPG. So that allows me to keep the costs way down. I knew up front that it wasn't going to be huge, so I didn't want to commit myself to printing and shipping cards. Most projects that are like book projects, I can be pretty confident that as long as I've got the goal at a reasonable level, that we can meet the goal and cover all the printing and shipping costs and still have enough money to pay everybody.
Well, I'm kind of in a special position where really the only input I need is editing and art for my personal projects. And I've got enough stock art built up now that I've been doing the last couple projects just based on a stockpile I already own. But the biggest thing I have looking forward is trying to do a sci-fi setting, but getting the art lined up on a stock basis is almost impossible.
Yeah.
And I was just, from my perspective, the number one issue is how do I estimate how much the art is going to cost? Do you really have to basically prepay for art and then try to recover it on the back end, or how? Because I'm seeing that as the biggest expense up front.
If it's a Kickstarter campaign, what I've seen a lot of people do is buy just enough art up front to run the project, but then take the funds that come in to pay artists for even more work. Is a fairly standard way to do it. I use primarily stock art as much as I can, like 90% of the time. And most campaigns, I try and make sure all the writing and layout, like everything's done before I even launch the project, because I've found the campaigns where I don't have that work done in advance become very stressful.
I've never run a Kickstarter, but I've learned from watching Eric that you should never get yourself too deep because you will get screwed. Yeah. So I would definitely want to have as much done ahead of time. Yeah, maybe have, because I do my own layout. I do layout for my job. So
Okay.
I would do everything up front, but just leave holes for art maybe. And then that would be the only thing remaining. Otherwise I'd be paranoid that I'd get too deep in the weeds.
And you probably don't want to promise any specific artist for a project like that, because who knows what is going to happen. I mean, if you commit to like, this one artist is going to do all the work, and then that artist gets really sick, you're now delayed a lot. So that would be dangerous.
Did
And
you have the
sci-fi
art
is,
for those
Greg,
cards?
I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, sci-fi is a really tough one to get stock arts for too, because sci-fi, I feel sci-fi is way broader in approach than what people consider classic fantasy.
Yep.
Greg, for my Majestic Fantasy Kickstarter, I had plenty of stock art because, like, I had several Patreons of people I like, and I kept up with them for at least a year before ahead of time. And so that's one approach. You can see if there's any sci-fi artists that you like on Patreon, and whether they're allowing to use your work. If they have a level so you can use their work commercially. And then you can build that up while you're writing everything, pay them every month or per piece, depending on how it goes. And then I asked Richard Luschek of the guy who does all the Harn illustration for a cover, and he agreed. And I could have gotten more pieces out of him. I just didn't build it into the budget or realized I would have the opportunity to have him do more pieces. But so I guess the moral of that is that talk to your artists more. If you have somebody you like, talk to them, see what their schedule is, and try to make everything land on their availability. So if you do have enough money for extra work out of them, they would appreciate it, and they will have the time to do it for you.
I've also seen some artists willing to cut deals if they're between like bigger jobs and they just need something to keep themselves busy during that time.
Interesting. Huh. I like that idea, actually.
Because patience is one of my biggest advantages. I don't really care. I'm not trying to hit particular targets. I'm writing it when I feel like writing it, and I'm not dependent on the money. It's just whatever I want to do. So I could say, he could be like, "Oh, I have a open slot in 3 months, and then I can do a whole bunch of stuff." Then that'd probably be fine for me. So I assume it's much harder when you're on a actual production schedule with other people.
Yeah, way harder.
And one thing I would do, Greg, is save all your money from the current stuff you release and make that your like cover artist fund. Any big dollar item that you want to just get out of the way before launching a Kickstarter.
I've been using that for Hookers and Blow.
Your choice, man. Your choice.
Actually, we have a question for Phil. It's Steve Jackson Games question.
Okay.
Biggest selling product or line for Steve Jackson Games? Munchkin?
Munchkin. Hands down.
That was actually pretty much a gimme. I think any of us in this room could have answered that one.
That's fun.
Yeah, I don't know the exact numbers at this point, but I know traditionally for the last 10, 15 years, it's been 65 to 75% Munchkin.
Yeah, it's the IP that keeps everything else in print.
It definitely keeps things moving forward.
And it hasn't slowed down any, has it? It's been like almost 15 years now or something like that.
Over 20. I went to the Cardamonde factory in Tennessee summer of 2001 for press checks on the first printing of Munchkin.
Wow.
It's been going a long time.
Holy shit.
And I'm trying to remember what the most recent set is. I know what the next set is on, or the next two sets. I'm not allowed to talk about those. South Park Munchkin may have been the most recent, or SpongeBob. One of the two.
Damn, those are pretty big IPs.
Oh yeah.
So who was the? Okay, so Steve designed the game, right?
Right.
And who did he do the humor behind the game, or
Oh
was
yeah.
somebody?
Oh yeah. Steve and John Kovalik handled all of that for about the first 8 or 9 years, and then Andrew Hackard tackled it for the next 12 years or so. And now, and Steve was also involved then, of course, and John as well. And now Will Schoonover is the line editor for Munchkin, and he's doing a great job. Will's a good guy. He worked for Steve Jackson Games 2007 to 2011 or so, and was a huge help to me on almost everything. And then he went to Privateer Press, and he spent about a decade there doing game design for them. And when Andrew got really sick and with cancer, Andrew and I talked about it, and I said, "Hey, what do you think about Will?" And Andrew was like, "Yeah, Will would be really good at this." So I called up Will and said, "Would you like to come do this?" And I'm glad he's back with the company. He's a great guy.
Paul would like to know if you have any more multimedia productions in the works.
Like music and game combo stuff again.
Your non-standard issues, yes.
Yeah, I've done a 7-inch vinyl record, 7-inch lathe cut record. I've done a couple of CDs, a cassette tape. I did a mini disc last year that I'm not supposed to talk about too often, or else my editor gets all grumpy because who would make a mini disc? I've got a couple more albums in the works. I've got a 7-inch Troika album that's actually a 2-disc. It's 4 tracks and adventure hooks and stuff. Basically ready to go. The vinyl front I'm slowing down on only because of the manufacturing times. They've gone from about 3 to 4 months to 10 to 12 months on manufacturing, and I'm just not comfortable leaving a Kickstarter campaign open that long. That's more stress than I want. I think I've got 4 or 5 complete albums though ready to move forward, either as CD release or cassette tape. I just have to decide.
What? Okay, so I'm kind of missing something here. What are these albums about? Are they music or?
I've done music and game content. I did a Mjorkborg vinyl record that has 2 books inside, and it's an adventure. One book is the tower, and the other book is the subterranean dungeon below the tower. And it's music plus game content.
How do you source the music?
I create the music.
Nice. You are truly. You do truly put the Renaissance in the OSR.
I try. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I didn't know there was a Phil Da Vinci.
Oh.
Or maybe
that's horrible.
maybe it's an OSRM, old school Renaissance man.
Master.
Master. There you go. Better one.
There you go. Joe the Lawyer, who will be with us shortly. Phil, do you print extra products during a Kickstarter so you can sell them later on your own? If so,
I absolutely, almost every time when I get the chance, I make sure to have extras. I don't have a web store because who has time for that in their lives? That sounds actually like horrible. But what I do is have reward levels where some of the previous work is available. I just threw a link in our little chat here to to one of the albums that's not yet released. That's 6 tracks, I think. So just give you guys an idea of sort of stupid things I do.
I will share it out there. There we go.
Nice.
John Miller, another Steve question. Does SJG produce? Well, you actually know they do. You do produce the Fantasy Trip. It's not handled by another company. He
Yeah.
didn't see a link.
Hit the Our Games section, and there should be a role-playing game section, and you'll find it there. And if you don't, then somebody at the company, not it, will have to deal with that problem.
One of the bigger third-party supporters of the fantasy trip and GURPS is Gaming Ballistic. So
Yeah, Doug.
Doug. So you can probably go to Gaming Ballistic if you want to find other support material too. But actually, it's probably sold at Steve Jackson Games web store too.
I hate to say this, but I think he's right. I'm not. So I clicked on.
I see it.
You do?
If you click role-playing games, it's the first one, top left.
Oh, so it's there.
Okay.
Lex Morgan, Mr. Reed.
No,
Rumor has
that's not allowed.
Is a real stickler, pain in the neck, intent on making you suffer. Dare I say your editor sounds like a meanie butthead. How do you survive it?
I barely survive. The best way to survive that I know of with a meanie butthead editor is to use as many unnecessary ellipses and semicolons as possible and make them work as hard as they can to clean up my horrible, horrible writing.
Does this Lex Morgan have inside information or something?
Potentially.
Potentially.
There's someone there who's seems to be having a little bit of fun at my expense, but that's okay. I'll keep that in mind the next time I'm writing, and I'll definitely use some very obscure German words or something just to make it a little more
a nice
confusing.
run-on German word that lasts like. I don't know.
Oh, you can inflict ChatGPT on him. That would be fun.
Oh, I wouldn't do that to anybody. I experimented with that a little bit, and it is terrifying, and no good is going to come of the AI tools that exist.
I don't know. I used it to write a contract that was passable when I showed it to a lawyer. So I was like, oh, well, that saved me a couple of $100 to get something that really shouldn't be needed, but I need it anyway. So all right. So there's uses, but not creative uses. I think if you're going to use things for that are like contracts, sure, it can go in and there's 19,000 contracts. It can figure out what you want and you tweak it. Fiction, creative fiction, I've got my doubts.
It can steal creative fiction.
Right. So.
Not quite how it works, but I use it as an ultimate random table. That is true. I use it as our ultimate random table generator, an ultimate random table with the added bonus that I can just throw paragraph of my stuff and have it make a random table off of it for me, which I go, that sounds good. That's baloney. Oh, these two together, yeah, that I could see how that could work, and then I figure out how to make it work.
I love to create random tables, but I don't think ChatGPT can create tables the way I do.
No, it's just more like an idea seed. What I do for my Black Marsh type stuff is I have a whole shelf full, which I'll spare showing everybody because I've done it so many times, and they're not going to get that bingo card tonight. But I have like a dozen books of random tables that if I'm stuck on my 13th layer for this map, okay, it's in a mountains area. Roll, and generate 5 possibilities. They're all pretty bland, but Periton. Oh, I could do something with a Periton. Yeah, Periton. What could a Periton do here? And then that's enough to get me to write out that paragraph. And ChatGPT, it's just as helpful as those books.
Well, I'd like to think that Phil's books are going to be a bit more helpful because I've used them. But so now I figure we've been dealing with questions and comments from the rabble rousers in the chat right now. But I figured you have a current Kickstarter going.
I do.
And by the way, folks, there's a link down there, 10cars-tavern.games/Phil Reed. So it's not that hard for you to read it off the screen and type it in to the search bar. This will take you to Phil's latest Kickstarter. Now, Phil was nice enough to give us a little peek behind the DM screen on what he's working on, and I was looking at some of this, and like Rob was talking about random tables. Well, yeah, these are certainly random. Oh, we inspired Matt to come in. Hi, Matt.
Matt.
So, I was told by a TSR old timer that he felt the most untapped parts of OSR gaming as published material these days. Everybody publishes adventures and settings and counters and random tables, but they don't put together books of magic items and spells. And he says, he felt that this was stuff that people should be doing because it's untapped, but they don't do it because it's too hard, because it requires real creativity as opposed to random tables and throwing together maybe an adventure that you've already run like 17 times at home. So you're giving us, and the other materials done have been encounters, have been random tables, but you're giving us magic items now. And how did you get to there, besides the fact that this excited you?
That's it exactly. Earlier this year, I ran a Kickstarter to make a book of it's D100 magic items and D100 rumors of just magic and magic items. And I had so much fun with that. I wrote another one, which was so much fun. I then wrote another one. And this current Kickstarter offers both of those 2 new books of magic items. And there's also reward levels. I was asked earlier about, do I print extra stuff? And yes, there are reward levels that get you all 3 of those different magic items books. Like I've got, this is the one from earlier this year. I don't have the actual Saddle Stitch Mix-em copy. This is one of the print-on-demand copies, but it still gives you an idea of like what it looks like. And it's 100 different magic items. And then in the back is just 100 different rumors of magic. And
that's a good addition. I like that. You not only have the stat block or the description of the magic item, you have rumors associated with magic items, which is pretty much half the equation. You probably have a built-in adventure seed right there.
Yeah, it is definitely. And then using the Drive-Thru RPG print-on-demand tools, I took the 100 rumors and did just a deck of cards for people who prefer having card draws for their randomness instead of a table.
Well, that's good.
But yeah, and I love writing big giant collections of things, but I can't. I tried one day to write one of those, like, here's 5 D100 tables where every single one's like 1 or 2 word thing, and I just I'm so bored. I can't do that. I've got to actually put some, like, I try and put some story into each individual item. Like some of the very first PDFs I wrote were like 101 mundane treasures, which sounds maybe boring, but when you look at it, it's technically 101 adventure ideas and like encounter hooks, just with little background information hidden in each item. And then on all the stuff I've been writing over the last year or so, I've tried to leave breadcrumbs across the different titles. So there's little hooks that GMs can use, and they might be reading, they're like, oh, I remember this from this other book. So they can piece it together. And then on these 3 books of magic items in the rumor tables, sometimes like rumor 11 across all 3 books will be related in some way.
Oh, that's
just to make that
nice
fun for people.
Tidbit. Yes.
Yeah, just little Easter eggs hidden here and there. Because if I'm not having fun writing this, nobody's going to have fun reading these or using them in a game.
I did a thread, like not a rumor across, but when I wrote my first Points of Light for Goodman Games, it was 4 hex crawl settings. But I thought, would it be interesting if I made this vague setting and set each of the 4 hex crawls in a different time period of the same vague setting? and people seem to like it. So it's always cool. They each stood on their own, but they had a little connection thread, and that really worked out well. So it's cool that you're doing that with your random tables.
Thank you. And I think it's more fun for people if you're subtle about it too, and they can discover it while they're reading.
Oh yeah, they don't want those secrets given up. They want to find it themselves. But it's also fun. Like, I know this secret. I've only found 3 out of 4. All right, we'll let you know what the 4th one is. But,
I've been hiding a ladder in everything I write for Matt.
A ladder almost killed Matt. Or Matt almost got killed by a ladder.
Thanks,
depending on how you want it. We love you, Matt.
Yeah,
Yeah, I went
brings up
to.
PTSD.
You might get a kick out of this, Phil. I went to my first con since the pandemic, ShireCon. I knew Matt was there, and he signed up for the dungeon adventure I ran, and I made sure in one of the and I used props and minis when I DM face to face, and I made sure in one of the rooms there was a red painted ladder for Matt's character to find.
I have a column in a. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. I have a column in one of my dungeons with a ladder leaning up against it. And if you go up the top of the ladder, there's a carving on the column that says Matthew was here.
It's like the joke that'll never die.
Yeah, well, you didn't die, right? That's a good.
You still have the ladder, Matt?
I do. It's on my desk where I play games.
But
cool.
No.
Well, actually, I was going to comment about. I actually own one of your products here, and related to kind of what you were talking about. I play solo. I'm the only guy around here that can enjoy solo or whatever. But on the cards, the things that I really liked is there is a nice little picture, a little evocative art with a cool name, and then there's a little. There's usually, I think, on all these, there's 2 little blurbs. One that's kind of what you would read as a player, read to the players, and then the second entry is sort of a hook or something. And as a solo player, drawing one of these is, I have the Labyrinth one too, but I don't know if you actually did that one.
No, and the Fantasy Trip deck you have there was not the original. I created 2 decks of outdoor encounter cards, and Steve kind of poked through and he's like, "Oh, these are cool. Can I do something with them?" I'm like, "That's awesome. Go ahead." And then I did 2 more decks after that. So I've done 4.
Oh, they're really
decks. Yeah.
I'll have to look for those. But yeah, I really find these useful because it's. Oh, sorry, my dog's playing with a toy. The art, of course, if you're an old school guy, the art is definitely get your gears moving. But then you've got a little kind of blurb of what you would like box text would be, and then you have. What did Joe say about playing solo? I missed it.
All men play solo from time to time, Matt. Most of us don't talk about it as much as you do, Ladder Man.
We call that.
I really do like them. I think they're great for solo play. I think you could use them at a table too, but I really do enjoy them for solo play.
Well,
yeah,
Matt,
I've got 4 decks. So what you've got there has what Steve cherry picked out of the first 2, and then there's 2 more decks.
Where might I purchase those?
Drive-Through RPG has all 4 decks in PDF or as printed card decks.
Oh, okay. I'll check them out. Thanks.
I suppose if I was smart, I would share the link to my stuff on Drive-Through RPG. But
yes.
I'm really bad at self-promotion. I'd rather just make this stuff than talk about it.
Well, that's why you're hanging out with us. This is not. We're not professionals at promotion, so it makes it work out pretty well.
Then I fit right in.
So, Matt, the Fantasy Trip has a strong tradition of solo play. So you might want to look through the entire product line. There might be some gems for you.
Yeah, I've got a couple of the PDFs.
We call that friendless play.
I'm currently using that. And my new favorite toy. That one. Ooh, very cool. But
I guess everybody can mark off their bingo card. I showed something. Yeah, but mine is in a mini binder.
Oh, well, mine is spiral bound, so it lays flat. Does yours lay flat?
Yeah.
Oh, yours is tabbed already. Damn it.
And then I have little dividers.
Nerd battle.
And pockets to hold the.
Oh, wow. That's too small. How do you read that? Your old eyes.
Because she formatted it digest size, so it's meant to be read that size.
Okay.
I guess, but you guys can probably read mine from across the room.
Not in a small box you're in, though.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, anyway, Phil, I have a question because I have, ever since the first Kickstarter that you put out for yourself, I have been amazed at your pricing strategy, because your pricing strategy is priced to be the impulse buy on Kickstarter. If you look at a Phil Reed Kickstarter and it's in the very least interesting to you, and you don't buy in at the lowest level, you're dead inside, because the lowest level is usually it's $1, $2. Here it's $5 for 2 books that are, I'm guessing, 32 pages.
48.
48 pages each. So you're getting 96 pages of gaming material.
Plus
stretch goals.
Plus the stretch goal that's unlocked added a third book that's 20 pages. And the stretch goal that is very close to unlocking adds a little 12-page booklet. And that's all in PDF for $5.
So essentially 128 pages, give or take, of gaming material for $5 to get the PDFs. So this is like when you go to the supermarket and you're waiting online and you're waiting for your shit to get rung up, and then you're looking at all this impulse buy stuff next to you. Skip the Tic Tacs next time and back one of Phil's Kickstarters, because it's going to be less expensive than what you were looking at, and you're going to get much more gaming use out of it. But Phil, I mean, you're the one that seems to have mastered this strategy.
Well, that's the model I used with PDFs back in the early and mid 2000s, was all the $1 and $2 PDFs. And when you look at it, you're like, oh, that's nothing. I'll buy 1 or 2 of those. And people bought them and they're like, oh, those are good. I'll buy a couple more. And the next thing you know, it's $100,000 in PDF sales. And people don't even realize that they're buying all this stuff. They're just like, oh, awesome. So yeah, the candy bars at the checkout's a really good way to describe that model.
Yeah. So is SJ Games kind of learning from you about this? Because now that you're describing it like this, that sounds just like their latest GURPS Kickstarter with the buy these books, pay us $10, and we'll get you a print-on-demand code for these books.
So a lot of times over the last 3 or 4 years, if I have an idea that I want to pitch at the office, I'll just go do it myself and then show Steve, like, okay, this is exactly what I'm trying to describe. So like we did those GURPS PDF challenges on Kickstarter where it was like $3 or $4 and you ultimately got a dozen PDFs. A lot of times I'm not personally looking to get as much money out of a person as I can. I want to get a little bit out of as many people as I can, because I think that's a great deal for the gamer. And I think it's overall more sustainable than relying on the same 500 people all the time.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. And also, you're growing your market each time, potentially.
Yeah.
You're bringing more people in. And if you want to spend more, like folks, if I scan up on this page, I'm a backer. And I'm a backer for the print level, because I like getting print stuff that my wife can then laugh at me as it sits in a pile that I don't get a chance to read nearly as quickly as I should. And then Rach just buys more perfume with the excuse of, I don't need to wear it because you don't need to read your stuff. So, but I like, you get a value with Phil's stuff, even with the print, that you don't get necessarily with other Kickstarter projects. You really do feel like you're getting your money, but most of your stuff is like, some of you do print on demand on occasion, but a lot of your stuff is you printed at a high quality printer. I believe these are saddle stitch, right?
These are saddle stitched, and they're going to be printed at Mixam, who I've used a lot. And I always select the best interior paper they offer because I'm a print snob, and I want the product to feel good.
And holy shit!
Hey, Tim has
so much. You can add once you. I'm currently backing. That's why I'm not fully paying attention. But you can add just about every one of your products as a add-on for a reduced fee for all this stuff. Once you back it, I'm gonna get the decks right now. So.
Oh, cool.
Thanks.
I think I listed the decks in the current Kickstarter
Yeah,
as
they're in there.
add-ons.
You've got both, just the PDF and also the print on demand.
And the way that works is after the campaign's ended, typically these days, my editor will handle sending out all of the codes to people using the Kickstarter messaging tools. That way I don't have to put time into that and I can be focused on writing or doing something else. But we'll try and send those codes out usually within a couple weeks at most so that people can start getting their stuff right away. And the editing process on this current campaign will start just as soon as we knock out the Here Be Dragons zine from earlier this year that's still in the editing process.
Hey, Eric, Tim has a comment about Phil working with other creators.
Oh, let me get down to Tim. As much as Phil is a mega product creator, he's an even greater supporter of creators. A few years ago, he backed my Hunters in Death zine, and because of him, dozens of others backed that project.
I love to back little indie creator projects because I think that's where innovation happens in this industry now. And I've been lucky that so many people want to support my work that I want to make sure I can give back. And yeah, I've noticed I've had people actually message me and leave comments before that following me on Kickstarter is dangerous because they receive emails when I back things. And I'm a super backer at Kickstarter, but I feel as if their classifications need some work because I think I'm somewhere around 1,500 backed projects now.
Oh,
and
thank
super
God!
Backer doesn't quite cover it.
Yeah, somebody who surpassed me. I'm only at like 675. Holy shit!
Bunch of amateurs around here.
Yeah, come on.
Here we go. 1,574 backed. I just pulled it up.
All right. Let me. I know I'm not going to come anywhere close, but actually, I overestimated. I'm only 545. 547 if we add the current ones that I'm backing. I got to say though, unlike the beginning of my Kickstarter experience, the later Kickstarter experience has been much better at projects fulfilling and lateness. There are some exceptions. Far West is gonna probably outlive me before it actually successfully ships. I accept that. It is what it is. I'll just update it like every 6 months and say what I have to say. But we no longer have the Ken Whitmans, the Mike Neistels, and a few others that were good at doing a pitch and were horrible at actually presenting product and getting to a completion.
I think it's like clickbait. I mean, like clickbait worked for a few years, but now, like when you see, you're like, I'm not going to even click on that. That's going to be dumb. Like people have learned to be discerning customers that they weren't when this stuff was brand new and they couldn't tell one project from another. And now producers have developed their own strategies to convey brand strength, and I can deliver on this and that kind of stuff. So I think this is what the market does. Weeds out crap product and people don't buy it because of reputation. Nobody's going to buy anything from Ken Whitman until the end of time.
I bought Extreme Vengeance from Ken Whitman. The rights
recently?
I mean. No, I bought the RPG rights to Extreme Vengeance.
Oh, okay. I was saying like if he opens a new project, don't save your money,
Nope. This was 2006 or 2007. That Star Ace, the Whispering Vault. I'm sitting on these properties that someday I should probably do something with them, but
Star Ace, that's the old Pacesetter game, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Christopher Shy and I bought their rights to that in 2003, and that's just we own the entire line.
Holy crap! I ran that a couple of sessions. The campaign ended when one of the spaceships blew up, but my party survived, floating in space with nothing to, no way to get back. And I was like, all right, well, I could tell you guys to roll characters, but you'll have to wait the next 3 hours for your editor. I was joking. They're like, let's go back to D&D. But I enjoyed
the Whispering Vault's the one I really want to get to and do something with one of these days. I feel that's setting the system I probably wouldn't keep. I think we know a lot more, but that's a really good indie RPG like reboot, second edition, just waiting to happen someday.
Well, it always had good talk when it came out, and what little I can still remember of the setting was very interesting. The system itself, even in my days when I could learn new systems, that was one of the ones that it's like, all right, I can spend my time reading this or Bushido. Either way, I'm not going to figure out how to run it, but I'm going to like the setting. That was on par with that.
It's from an era where we would put energy into learning new games. I mean, I don't remember how many different systems we played like years ago. I mean, come on, we played Cyborg Commando, so we really have no excuse for living at this point.
No, we don't. Do we play it or did we buy it?
We played it.
You played it.
We played it. We played Manhunter, like the bounty hunter sci-fi game. From,
I remember that.
87, 88.
Yeah, I owned it too.
I
never got a chance to run it. Cyborg Commando, I got that and I went, well, except for the charts here, which tells you how many people died in each major city, I don't know what I have here. But it's signed by Gary and Kim Mohan, so I should be happy.
We played it a couple sessions. It was a thing. I don't regret trying it, but
okay.
I don't think I would recommend it to anyone. And there's novels. I never read the novels. I've got them around here somewhere, but I'm just terrified of what's even in those.
I got a German board game once called How We Became Human, and they translated it into English in like the worst possible way. And I spent a month trying to figure out how to play this game. And I could never do it. I could not figure out how it worked. It was brutal. I would never do that now. that was a long time ago.
Yeah. David Thompson, our favorite Brit, he has a sealed Star Ace GM screen, the Gemini Conspiracy Adventure for Star Ace, but not the game itself.
Well, you got to find the game.
Yeah. So you just gotta put it, back in print as a print-on-demand PDF over on Drive-Thru.
Maybe someday. That sounds like a lot of work. I can devote my energy to that, or I can make something, and I have so much more fun making things. It's like I was showing you the Mimics map I did earlier, the map format.
Oh yeah.
I definitely want to do more of those. I love that format. It's pricey, so you've got to get a decent number of backers, and the printing cost is high relative to the perceived value. So it's not easy to make those, but designing them is so much fun. I treat it kind of like a magazine layout at that point, where it's just nice, big, flashy. I've done.
I'm sorry, Phil. I didn't.
Maps from Markborg.
Are you talking about maps? Is that what I?
I was showing you the little mimics.
Okay.
Physical earlier, and just saying that I really, really enjoy this format, and I want to do more of this.
That's just amazing how it folds out, and the fact that you can refold it is probably more amazing.
I can because I'm old. I don't know if
nobody does maps anymore. Come on, back when you had to drive any place, you're there with the map from the gas station, trying to figure out where you're going, with the green highlighter tracing out your path. Yeah, no, thank God for.
But this is a printer out of Georgia that does these, and it's just a standard for them, and they've got all different sizes of them, including little bitty credit card size when they fold down. I want to do an entire RPG on one of these.
Where can you order those at?
Pocketmaps.com is the. Oh wait, do you mean this exact one?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I don't have a web store, but I will. I have some more of these left, and I'll list them in some Kickstarter campaign someday. Like right now, the current project, I listed the last of the gelatinous cube maps that I made the same time as this one, so they're essentially gone. I think I'm gonna have like 2 or 3 left that I'll probably just give away to somebody.
Damn.
But they're fun, and then they're in PDF on Drive-Thru RPG as well. But you get like a giant PDF.
Oh God. So
Yeah, I didn't pull enough show and tell out. Sorry about that.
that's okay. So now I have another question about for you, because this is one of my pet peeves, and you don't fall into the trap. You do fairly quick turnarounds for estimated delivery, and if I am not wrong, you've consistently either hit your mark or been early with pretty much every Kickstarter that I can think of.
There's been a couple where there were delays, and those are typically the ones where I go against my own rule of have it all written before launching the Kickstarter. So the couple where there's been a little bit of a delay has been on me, but I do try and communicate as much as I can just to let people know. But I think overall my track record is probably greater than 95% on time or early delivery.
That
Excellent.
is honestly amazing, as you well know.
Thank you. With 60 something projects run so far.
Damn. So what is your after this project, which by the way, folks, like I said, I'm backing for the print. If anybody is watching this video, if you're not in for $5 and you're an OSR GM or player, you're out of your mind. But Phil is consistently good. But what's your next project after this one?
Possibly this Undead book I've been working on. I don't even know if I can share my screen here or not. I don't know how any of this works.
Down at the bottom, you'll see there is a present button. And with that, you can share an application or screen, and then Eric can show. We'll have to approve it to show to the rest of us.
We'll have to approve it. That seems unfair.
Right?
Well,
talk to the cop, man.
I'm just not present. Is share screen share the entire screen? Because that seems unnecessary. Let's see what we can do. Share screen.
You should be able to share a window.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking of a different program. I think you can only share screens with this.
Yeah, it says it's better with 2 monitors.
Well, you can share screen if you go to window. You can share a specific window. So if it's, you don't have to do the entire.
Oh yeah.
There's a window option. There we go.
Yep.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
That's what I was expecting to find.
Sorry, I needed to click one more button.
So there we go.
All right, so this is what I've been working on, and it is essentially a collection of undead encounters. You've got a monster and some very light stats for the GM on the right-hand page, and then the left-hand page is little encounter ideas that go with the monster. So you can kind of see my process here, where I do basically a visual outline for the entire thing. And once I had that in place, I went through and did all the game stats for all the creatures. And now I'm going back through and doing all of the encounter ideas. So you can kind of see my process where I'm skipping around as I have ideas. And sometimes I'll have things interlinked. So as I'm writing one, I'll be like, oh, I want to tie this other monster in. So I'll jump back to the other one and write it and just have a little back and forth going on.
So are you using InDesign as a word processor essentially as well?
Oh yeah, I do all the writing directly into the layout software, which gives me a lot more control over the final look. And I do a visual outline first. So like I build this entire spread, But then as I'm writing, if I figure out, oh, I need some extra space, I've got like more to say, or maybe I don't have another 25 words to say about this, I'll tweak the art. And this one is designed as a 128-page hardcover. So once I've got everything written, then I'll start building the Kickstarter campaign. And with luck, there'll be enough people who are into the idea that I can make a nice sewn binding hardcover for this. But yeah, at this point, I think I'm just rambling. You can get a feel for what I do there.
Oh, definitely.
So how good are you going to be able at resisting at making your own retro clone? It seems to suck us all in at some point, one point or another.
I'm gonna say not very well. I mean, we know I'm going to. It's a given. I have no choice.
I mean, you have like a section of your monster manual right there.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a crime for me not to just do my own at some point. And that's where that map format comes in, because I'd love to do it like that and have one side be like the GM side and the other side be the player side.
That would get people's attention.
Yeah. So we'll see. What do I use for book layout? InDesign.
Okay.
100%. I do. So my process is a lot of times I'll create the graphics like as a full package in Photoshop, and then I will pull that into the InDesign file and write directly to that.
Now, you said you use stock art for most 90% of your art. Where are you getting that kind of stock art from?
Oh, all over the place. Drive-Thru's got a lot. Fantasy stock art, Shutterstock. A lot of these you've got to be very careful with the licensing terms because they've got some really weird requirements. Like for the map products, you have to do the expanded licensing at Shutterstock because the basic licensing only covers doing print books and not doing like records or CDs or maps or anything like that. Yeah, but here, I'll share screen again. Why not? So like the Mimic project, here you can see the Photoshop file. And then, so all the text, well, not all the text, like quotes, things like that I do in Photoshop. Then the actual game text is all written in InDesign. So I'll pull that entire graphic into InDesign as one piece. And it'll be the background layer. And then all the writing will just go over the top of that.
Nice.
And I do that basically with every page spread in every book is constructed in that way. And it gives me more creative control over the visuals. So a lot of times when I'm working on writing one of these, I'll be jumping back and forth between InDesign and Photoshop and editing the base layer a lot throughout the entire process. But everything I do starts as a quote unquote visual outline where I just block out the entire book or map or record, whatever it is, and then design to that. And now I feel like I'm rambling, so sorry.
No. This is an impressive peek behind the screen, which, most of us, myself especially, I mean, I think when I laid out the first printing of Swords and Wizardry Continual Light, the best comment I got about it was serviceable. So I took that for what it was, which was I didn't fuck it up. I got something that was okay enough, but obviously not a work of art.
Okay.
You have to know your limits, and that was fine. So when we've come out with the new Continual Light, which is going to be digest size, I had James Shields do beautiful cover for it. The OGL fiasco just kind of stopped the process because I want to see where WotC's going to go with the old SRD. Are they going to open up to the Creative Commons, whatnot? But I am not doing a layout. Jeff Jones is doing a layout. Jeff is very talented at it. You have to know if you have a limit, and I know I have a limit in layout. As much as I wanted to learn how to do it and be more than serviceable, I think serviceable was probably being generous. So I mean, because people don't throw nice comments out there. If serviceable is the best you're going to get, they're probably stretching to be a little bit nicer.
I'm lucky that my initial work was mostly in graphics and layout, so I'm able to just do all that work myself these days, and I think it definitely gives me an advantage at times because I can make things. I think I can make things that look professional and very attractive and catch people's
definitely.
eyes. And if I had to pay somebody for layout, I'd have to be charging more for everything.
Well, I was going to say that too. The more that you can do yourself, the better you are at controlling costs. Every other hand that gets into the process is another hand that has to be paid.
Well, like Amy, you've met Amy.
Oh,
right?
yeah, Amy's a sweetheart.
Amy handles all my shipping.
Okay.
So that makes my life easier because if I had to ship this stuff, you would see way less from me. So that's a cost, but it's definitely a cost that is highly worth it. And then my editor Lex, who does a phenomenal job of making me sound smarter than I really am, that's an expense, but again, totally worth it. But the rest of the work I can basically do myself. And I used to do artwork as well, and I could do that still if I wanted to, but I'm so slow at it. I would make a lot less if I was doing all the art personally.
All right, so it'll be a time sink. And
Yeah.
so really what it comes down, there's a lot of things to balance. And you are someone that has been able to, I'm going to go out as far as say that, but you've been able to do that balance. Whether the balance is a time balance, it's a money balance, it's a production balance. And it's not just the time in the production of it, it's the time in getting it shipped out. And you work on multiple projects at once. The advantage to that is when one's coming close to completion, you can put it next in line for what you're going to work on. I guess that means that whatever's exciting you at the moment will probably get the most attention. So you're not getting caught in that rut of, I've got one project and it has to get done, and I've got writer's block and I don't know what the hell to do, as opposed to, well, all right, I don't really feel like dealing with Undead right now, but I do have that rules book that was being teased. I can write a chapter or two. At least I'm producing something that will get used at some point. So that's a pretty good way to handle.
Yeah, and jumping between projects sometimes just helps my brain. Like, I shouldn't even share this because it's way too good of an idea and somebody's going to steal it if I'm not fast enough. But I am so happy with this completely stupid concept that I've got to share it.
All right, folks, you've seen this here first.
Greg's a quick one. Oh,
nice.
So what we have here is a concept for a collection of campsites that you can find and camp at, but then also a selection of nighttime encounters. So you can again see here's my rough process where I'm blocking out all the ideas. I've got
I recognize
I've got
like stock art.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, that beats my idea for riffing off the Borderlands. I have an out. It's more than an outline. There's some stuff done for it, but it's called Beyond the Borderland. So technically, we can't use anything that's copyrighted by Wizards or TSR, but I just happen to have drawn the lower left corner of the map so it dovetails perfectly with the Keep on the Borderland map. So if somebody happens to put the two together, they have an extension to the Keep on the Borderland.
You didn't tell them to do it, but when I woke up one day with, oh, I have an idea for a title, I had to run with it. There was no way I couldn't.
That is awesome, and I'm going to say something else too. Your work, especially your D&D stuff or your systemless stuff, is perfect for the DM who likes to improv or run light. Matt just dropped out of the session, but Matt's an improv DM by heart too, and we're both of minimal prep because I'd rather respond to my gaming group than have to have like 9,000 directions already pre-planned and then see which one of them they're going to go. I'd rather let my players decide what's happening, where we're going to go, and it makes it challenging and exciting for me. And your material allows me to do that and to do it without fear that I'm going to be stuck without knowing what the hell is going to happen next.
And that's my goal with all this, is to give GMs just enough to take it and make it their own. And like all the rumor products I've done have been specifically designed as, we know your players are stupid and they're just going to ignore everything you have to tell them. So let's throw a bunch of things at them at once and maybe they'll go for something. It's like I was talking to somebody and they're like, well, you've designed this adventure in a tower, but what if my PCs don't go in the tower? And I'm like, that's fine. Just make a forest of towers and tell them it's all towers as far as you can see, and it doesn't matter which one they go in. That's the one.
They'll get the hint subtly. Hey, buddy.
Or they'll be dead.
Well, welcome,
you can either join us in the adventure, or you can be dead and make a new character. It's fine.
Yeah,
I should really wrap up here though, because I've got to go to Detroit.
Well, as a retired cop, I'd say I hope that you're well protected while you make your trip to Detroit. But then again, from the videos I've seen, half the city now has been reclaimed by nature, so I guess you'll be okay.
I'll be fine. I'm gonna swing by the Palladium office while I'm there, so that'll be super fun.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, Phil, again, thank you for joining us, folks.
Thank you.
I'm going to leave the link up on the screen for the rest of our chat. Please take a peek, take a look. As Matt found out, when you decide to back this project, you'll have a plethora of additional add-ons and options. And Matt seems to have gone down the rabbit hole, so I'm sure you all can too. So.
The important thing I want to point out about the add-ons is they are only for drive-through RPG codes for either PDFs or print-on-demands. I try not to do physical add-ons in a Kickstarter because that slows Amy down on the fulfillment side if people can choose things. But if we just limit it to, you pick this reward level, you get this thing, it makes it a lot easier for her to pack and ship everything, which keeps costs down.
Yeah, I got a package from Amy last week. It's always fun to be ripping open the latest thing from Phil. It's like, and now I realize why I've been opening up so many of them, because you put out so many projects. Now I know. Rach goes, the first time she's like, who's Amy? And I went, let me open this up. I go, oh, it's a Phil project. She goes,
I'll probably start a Patreon later this summer, I'm thinking.
Really?
Because that's something I've never tried, and I think it'd be fun to experiment with.
Very cool. Well, keep me updated, sir. Keep me updated.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us, and
thank you.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
You got yep.
See you, Phil.
See you, Phil.
And then there were four. I guess we're going to be
champions.
4 champions. Let them fight it out. And we still have gaming news that I have not spoken about on the regular channel. Like the Gen Con Peter Atkinson lawsuit was dismissed. with Prejudice.
I played a game with him, Peter.
Didn't we both play a game with him?
Yeah, we played. It was
it was the
Powered by the Apocalypse. Something.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what was that lawsuit about?
So that was a slander libel lawsuit when Peter Atkinson basically said, yes, Zach is banned from Gen Con. I'm going from memory here, folks. So if I'm wrong on the details, just go from memory. And basically said he was being banned because he was, I think, a criminal or a sex offender or something to that extent. And
this is the Zach one you're talking about, right, Eric?
Yeah, I got this.
Yeah.
The dismissal was, I think it was dated the 10th.
Jesus, with prejudice means he can't bring it back.
Right. But now that hasn't always stopped him because he has appealed to a higher court in the past.
Yeah.
And I think a higher court in one case overruled the lower court and agreed to hear.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. And if you're the plaintiff, the last thing you want to see is dismissed with prejudice. Because like Joe said, you can't bring it back. You can't plead that case again. Even if it wasn't with prejudice, and generally speaking, most courts don't want to rehear something that was already thrown out or dismissed by another judge. It's usually kind of like, But prejudice means it's dead at that level unless he appeals it. So
it's also a secret way of saying he's full of shit.
Well, apparently I was being unpersoned because, and correct me if I'm wrong.
The hell does that mean? Is that a new thing I haven't heard about? Unpersoned?
I was being unpersoned. Yes, blacklisted. I was problematic because
I heard about that. You were your cohorts.
Yeah, you're the cohorts because I'm
a cohort. Yeah, we're all cohorts, Rob.
But apparently
I didn't sign up for this cohort shit. I'm nobody's cohort.
Dude,
you're a red shirt with a blue
even though I'm large enough to be a cohort.
Yeah, here's what I don't understand. So I know you, Eric. That makes me problematic. But if someone knows me, does that make them problematic by way of that? But because if the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, that means we're all problematic.
Well, the problematic started with you coming on with Mike and I.
Innocent me?
Innocent you. Remember that person that was like, I don't know who Bad Mike is, but that tank car guy is problematic. And you were like, exactly how is he problematic? And they didn't answer you because why? Why would they?
Matt Jackson asked how he was problematic. I just remained quiet and still.
All right. Well, in any case, nobody likes to answer the why part with that because they always like. I had somebody on my Facebook group said that limitations of the flame, for instance, is problematic, and I'm like, and James is certainly somebody who pushed the edge. There are reasons to have problems with limitations, but I was just like, tell me how they're problematic, and I was told to do a Google search. I'm the admin of the fucking group, and I'm being told to do a Google search by someone who's refusing to answer. I don't know.
Eric, what you don't understand is it's no longer required that you actually do anything problematic. Just thinking something problematic is enough to get rid of you. Or you don't even have to think it. If they suspect you of thinking it, there you go. That's the worst, when they suspect you of thinking against your will. Yes.
Well, speaking of that's
just to put this in perspective, we're talking about an outfit that has like 100 followers here.
Oh yeah. Yes. Yes, we're talking about the company that fired an editor because the editor worked for Lamentations at some point. And by the way,
is that CNN?
Yeah, could be Fox News today.
They're all going down like flies.
They're all going down like flies. But the reason why I was problematic or an issue, a Yahtzee, is because I defended Zach Smith. I'm a Zach Smith defender.
Defended his works. You ever defended him?
But you know why? Do you know why? No. Freaking bug. Do you know why I'm a Zach Smith defender? I had to backslap it. It was on my screen. You know why I'm a Zach Smith defender? Because I refuse to label him a criminal or a sex offender.
Yeah.
You know, I suspect that my plumber has some impure thoughts, but I'm still
Well,
fine with him doing his job and going home.
you know, it depends on the amount of plumber crack you see. You know, you might want to plug that up. But no,
Remember
because
the Man Show? They had that product called Crack Spackle.
Crack spackle.
oh my
Yeah,
God,
yeah.
yes, I got my crack spackled.
That was the funniest shit. Whatever. Talking about politically incorrect. Holy shit! Could you imagine if that was on today? The Man
Well,
Show
No, you
with
could
the trampolines.
you couldn't do it, but you could do it on YouTube.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. YouTube would
Oh.
probably cancel you eventually, though. You know,
Yeah, they would.
jumping
'cause
on
somebody-
trampolines for no reason. You know,
Yeah, but I mean,
Jimmy Kimmel rode that shit all the way to Hollywood. Look where he's at now. Oh, I
He was-
apologize. Fuck
He was
you.
even in blackface, and then all
I
of a
know.
sudden he's the one telling everybody else how they need to live.
Uh,
That's why I wrote the disclaimer at the front of Ambition and Avarice, the not dedication.
this is not dedicated to.
This is
any
not
of
dedicated to you.
it. Go fuck yourself. You know, so it's this stupid shit that's going on right now. I mean, it frustrates me. Listen, I don't mind honestly when people say shit about me. So like, but when you say shit about my mother, like when you were a kid, right? You can call me names. You
Yeah.
start saying my mother wears army boots. That's fighting words. I'm gonna take you out. Say what you want about me, but once my cohorts were dragged into this, and once Kelsey was dragged into it, I got a little.
she got dragged too? The hell?
She
She got
fired
dragged
back
too.
though. She was in that thread saying something. I saw it on Facebook.
I that must be when they decided to take the thread down when it really blew up in their face.
Huh.
I mean, they didn't name her. They just said a really successful recent OSR Kickstarter creator who happened to be on Tenkar's channel. All right, yeah, vague booking to its largest extent.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree it was a shitty thing. It's just like right now, I could get a bunch of posts lambasting Bob Bledsaw II and Judges Guild about what they're currently doing, just criticizing. But I don't, because I know it'll bring attention to what they're doing, and they'll get more business out of it. So it's a tough call. It's a tough call that when you speak out and when you don't.
Right.
I don't want to give Judges Guild any more oxygen. They're still ripping off the Kickstarter backer when they could start. They right now they have the means of slowly making people good what they promise on the Kickstarter, but they're choosing not to do so.
Well, I mean, the Bob Bledsoe Frog God mediation, because when they had their contract, if there was a dispute, it had to go to mediation. Both sides pulled up the tavern for the coverage that I was doing, a large part with the help of Rob, because Rob was what was certainly somebody who understood a lot of the background more than.
Wait, was he Deep Throat?
No.
Oh, I thought he was like Washington Post Deep Throat.
No.
When it came out about Judges, I just threw it all out there for people to figure it out for themselves, and I just blow them up in the open. So
yeah, but I both Frog God referred to my posts, and then Bob referred to my posts as saying that it was probably an evil vendetta I had against him. It's like I don't have an evil vendetta against him, but when it came to people having like Yahtzee-like thoughts and statements, he was doing a pretty good job at the time. I mean, when you lose 50K in mediation, probably not good. But that's
no,
probably...
and so it you made your post, then I wrote up my full explanation, and if Bob did not respond, it would have been that one of those things where they said he said kind of deals, and people would say, oh, this is just another matter of people being woke. But then Bob Bledsoe II wrote that big long post of his on Facebook. And
I think the root of it all is that with social media now, everybody feels like they have to run their own PR office, and they have to make sure that their view of everything is cataloged or some crap. When in the vast majority of the cases, nobody gives a fucking shit. And it's like, I make widgets. Therefore, everyone needs to know my views on child slavery in the Sudan or some shit. Like, no one gives a fuck, man. Just make widgets.
You should not post anything on Facebook that you're not comfortable going down to your hometown downtown and posting it on the telephone pole.
I just post and ghost. I'll even put links to my shows on there. That's all I do. It's not worth engaging on certain
That's how
platforms.
you date also, Joe.
Oh, it's cheaper that way.
Well, she's got to pay the bill. I went to the bathroom and left.
And I just, it's not worth some platforms, Twitter, Facebook, why bother? MeWe's kind of okay, I mean, for the light engagement we do have, but it's mostly people posting like an advertisement or something along those lines. Reddit, assholes. I put something in there and I get banned for 30 days. Fuck you. They're just posting a link to a show I have. Oh, it's contentious.
No,
Suck it up, Buttercup.
But Joe, you know what? I could probably post that link.
It's contentious or something. They say.
Yeah, after Google Plus died, I don't argue with these idiots anymore.
No.
So that time of my life is over.
Yeah. Well, it's not worth it.
I just made problematic a forbidden word in the tavern's Facebook community.
Where does this word come from? Until the last few years, I'd never heard of it in my life. I thought people are making that bullshit up. Has it been around this long and nobody's used it? Or
problematic?
Yeah, I've never heard that word in the last couple
of years.
Yes,
it was problematic. Problematic has always been around. It just hasn't been widespread use because
it's a bitch word. It's like, is it a problem or it's not? Problematic makes you think it's somewhere in between. Might be, maybe a little bit sometimes. The fuck, you just say
Joe,
it's a problem.
Making up new obscure terminology for shit is how you develop your cool street cred.
Yeah, true.
Well, in this case, problematic. I've used it back in even as far back as the 90s. I used it ever since I started working because sometimes with the machinery, you get a problem that you can't say there's a cause, but it glitches. And problematic is the way you describe it. Like, this servo motor is problematic. Right. It will work for 3 days, and then on the third day, it's not going to work. And then it starts working again. This is a problematic situation.
I'm going to bust out my old World Book Encyclopedia 1973 and check this shit out. My dictionary.
Dictionary, up on the screen, I did a Google search. Problematic, constituting or presenting a problem. Okay, noun, a thing that constitutes a problem or difficulty.
It's an adjective too, don't forget that.
Right, it's an adjective, it's a noun. So what it basically is, it's a problem. Explain to me what the problem is. Explain to me what the issue is. Don't just say, and again, if you're telling the admin of a group who says, listen, I know you think something's problematic, would you mind explaining to me why? Do your own Google search.
Yeah, it's a weasel word. It doesn't. It means there might be something there, I think, but it's enough to stand on. Therefore, I'm going to fuck you with it.
It's passive.
The problem is not problematic. The problem is they don't say that when you. It is my opinion when you deal with this stuff, you got to focus on specific people doing specific things, and when that's the problem with people saying stuff like problematic because it's not specific. Who's the person? Why are they problematic? Well, what specific thing they're doing, and then we can have a conversation. If you just say something vague, like, okay, this is not going to go anywhere, and I'm not going to freaking Google it myself unless you're going to provide. In
other words, I'm not going to. They want to engage you and come to some resolution. It's just propaganda bullshit.
Here, I got
That's
it.
All
Here,
it is.
Listen to this. World Book Encyclopedia, 1973. Their dictionary. We got the whole. We all had that dictionary encyclopedia set from World Book. Now, this is a slightly different way that it's being used in here. Problematic, having the nature of a problem, doubtful, uncertain, questionable. So that's their definition. In other words, it's
Well, what is it though? Is it an adjective or a noun?
it says it is an adjective.
Right, and the noun is probably the newer thing.
But the
This
true
is
definition of what they're saying, Joe, is that
doubtful,
what you've done or what Eric has done
Mhm.
goes against what they think is politically correct and
Yeah, yeah.
thus constitutes a problem.
But here they're saying it's doubtful, uncertain, questionable. How can something be definitely bad or wrong if it's the very definition of the word problematic is doubtful, uncertain, or questionable?
Right.
There's nothing there. There's nothing there.
So he's problematic. Why? Because he's a problem.
Yeah.
All right. So
Name
what's the problem?
They can't
What's the
tell you.
problem? Well, he's problematic. It's
The problem is
circular.
he won't conform.
Well,
Yeah.
we know that.
Groupthink.
Well, it's an adjective, so you need something that's associated with something to mean something. You just can't say, you can't use it like a noun
You
and
can.
have it make sense.
Oh, you can, Rob. They don't have to make sense.
Dictionary, according to the Oxford Languages, noun.
Well, look at the definition. The problematics of artificial intelligence. What the hell is that? That doesn't tell you whether there was any problem. I could say I have a servo drive that's problematic, and that will tell you that servo drive is having problems. That's something specific that's happened. I'm not telling you what the problem is, mind you, but
Rob,
you know
has
that
your wife ever told you that everything is fine?
Yeah. In that
Okay.
tone.
You're looking at words as if they mean things. They're not using them to mean that thing.
Yeah.
I get it, Greg. I'm just criticizing when the people do that, and even when they say, "Yes, I feel fine," and they really don't feel fine. And I just wish to God that when somebody says that, they're just freaking clear to me, so I can, if I am being problematic, I can fix my
You're
behavior.
being problematically masculine right now, Rob.
I'm not gonna
in your hard logic and no emotion stance.
Joe, in your best lawyerly voice, read Mr. Gunn's comment.
This conversation is a problematic fetor issuing from the cloaca of people's opinion. No idea what the two words are, but I rest my case, Your Honor. Whatever the hell that
means. If the cloaca don't fit, you must quit. Oh, shit.
Yeah, I mean, if you had a rule that unless you'd say it to a guy who's a foot taller than you and made of muscle to his face, you can't say it on the internet. The internet would be a wonderful place.
What's that old, like the barbarians? Like if you carry a sword, people are nicer or something.
But here's the deal: have you guys ever watched Bridgerton on Netflix?
No, I heard of it.
No, okay, but you heard, the genre that it's part of. Well, that reading that statement that you posted earlier, from that guy, it's just snobbery. It's just the same kind of crap that the British upper crust used to exclude the people with new money, or 1,000 situation over 1,000 century, when some elite or some group wants to just be a snob to another group.
No, Rob, in this case, it's a generational power grab. It's the generation under us saying we want to take power from the boomers and Gen Xers. And how are we going to do it? How are we going to force them out? We'll make us some goddamn nonsense and bullshit and just get them gone, and then we can take power. We want power now as a generation. That's what it is. What it is. It's the elite of that generation just manipulating bullshit to get it.
Yeah, I don't. I think it's just shitty people and acting like shit.
Well, that doesn't contradict what I just said. The two could exist.
You're attributing a higher meaning to shitty people being shitty.
Yeah,
it's just every generation had shitty people being shitty.
I tell you, man.
I mean,
Gen X,
it's not a generational thing. It's just us. Thanks to the magic of the
generational warfare. Climbing that mountain is right. Generational warfare is what it is. It's every generation takes power from the one before it, and this is their move. This is how they're doing it.
This is their Woodstock.
I know. I met plenty of young people that I can work with just fine. I've met plenty of younger people that.
Rob, you're talking in particulars. Yeah,
Rob, you work in machine metals. Come on, man. Like most people working in an office have totally different circumstances than the way that you work, and the people that you're working with are totally different. If we were on a deep sea fishing boat, it would also be nobody talking about problematic shit.
Yeah, and you can't make an exception into the breaking of the generalization, Rob. I mean, there's always exceptions to every generalization. With generalizations are general.
What I'm saying is, don't generalize. Period.
I always generalize. That's how I live.
I know you generalize, and generalize is what's leading to this madness that we're in.
Yeah, 95% of the time, I'm right.
An unstoppable force has met the immovable objects.
Well,
the reason I'm as success I am at doing support, talking, and by the way, Greg, I talk to office people all the time because they need I have to deal with the office people because to generate the reports they need to report on them how much metal and the other stuff my metal cutting machines use. And I tell you, the reason I'm the success that I am is that I do not generalize. I look at the specifics of the situation every time, and that way I'm able to resolve the problem quickly. And because we offer free support, if I didn't do that, I would be driven insane. Rob, I would never be off the phone all day.
After law school, I got a sales job. And within 2 years, I was the best salesman in the entire company and the entire country. They sent me to Hawaii, all expenses paid, first class, everything for free. You know how I became a great salesman, going from 0 sales experience to being the greatest in the whole company? I generalized and stereotyped and analyzed based on verbal and nonverbal cues. I studied human behavior and thinking. And because of that, I was able to size people up in 5 fucking minutes and get something out of them that I wanted. And they loved me for it. And we had a friend because it works, Rob. It works.
Yeah, I've written the training for selling timeshares, Rob, and you don't get specific. That's not the tip.
My company is now #1 because we don't pull that kind of shit with our sales outfit.
Yeah. Rob,
it took us 20 years to do it, but by God, we did it because every other sales company in our industry who pulls the shit that you did fell by the wayside as people realized they were selling a load of bullshit to them.
What was the reason why Joe's no longer doing that job? All right, you can't continue.
I didn't like myself. I didn't like myself anymore. Yeah.
Well, you can't continue doing that for too long, or else it kind of steps on you.
Yeah, your soul gets stained by that nonsense. You know, after 4 or 5 years of doing that, I'm like, I can't do this shit. I got to get out.
And I tell you, there were times when it was tough. There was like we'll get a run of a handful of years, 3 to 5 years, where we just not this shit again because our competitors come with a new line of bullshit, and it gets hard. But if you stick to it, you'll win in the end. It's not being optimistic. I've done this for decades. I've seen people I'm not directly involved in sales, although I've been involved in sales situation because I'm the tech guy, and you can also talk to people who in a sales mode. But we've done it. I mean, it works.
Rob, all you got to do, the best advice I ever got was a sales job that I failed at miserably. But I learned more from that fucking miserable sales job that I had for 2 months selling home delivered frozen food. It was my just after college job because there was a recession in Connecticut really bad that year. And so I learned a whole lot from this thing because I failed miserably. And the one thing this guy told me, he says, I go into these, he's telling me sales war stories, and he tells us these stories, this and that, and I sold her this, and I sold them that, and it wasn't just the food, they got the fridge, the grill, and the da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, and he goes, you know how I did it? We're all looking for the sales trade secrets here. He goes, I got them to like me. As soon as they liked me, they trusted me. As soon as they trusted me, I could have sold them a Mercedes, a grill, or a goddamn wheelbarrow. It didn't matter. That's all sales.
Yeah, I agree. If you're polite and personable and get the person to like you, it's considerably easier, and that is a good way. I mean, I've been pounding the streets for a project I'm doing, and the reason I know how to approach them and engage the people and say, hey, I'm Rob, and I just say, well, I understand what they're saying about that, but here's what I believe, and this is why I do. I can't really speak for them, but I can speak for myself. So, and it works. It's slow. It's not as flashy. But
what's behind that, Rob, is a skill at reading people's verbal, nonverbal body language and everything about them, the clothes they're wearing, the surroundings, the watch, their hairstyle, the tattoo here or there, hearing their accents. Every single thing, after years of practice in doing that, it becomes second nature to generalize. You don't have to think about it.
That's
You
not
just see somebody,
generalization. That's paying attention to specific. You're looking
and
for
you,
the clue.
because you generalize based on X, Y, and Z, that means A, B, and C. That's the generalization part, Rob.
That's not generalization.
And that's where I'm right. And this is my point.
All right.
Generalization is the thing.
Well,
This
listen,
is why I have so many texts on my phone, guys. These two
Oh my
going
God,
at it
yeah, go
over
back and
every
forth.
goddamn. I'll
Yeah.
put my phone down and walk away for a minute, and I come back 45 messages.
That's why I had to mute. I thought I had to mute that group. Listen,
Yeah.
this is like, put me in, coach. I'm ready to play today.
Uh-oh.
Bad.
Wait a minute. Why is he allowed to horn in on this podcast? Were you criticizing me?
Because
on
you
the
lost.
podcast?
Because you
And I
lost
was
Matt
just-
tonight. You lost Matt, so you get me. I tagged in. I told Derek to tag me in.
Oh, Matt Jackson. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so
Yes, you
you're
lost
playing,
Matt, so
you're playing the
you tagged
ex-army
me
guy?
in.
Do you also fear ladders?
I just posted that not to get on the show because that was the only time I had
Rob,
to talk.
Rob, I was busting.
Rob
you
is
up.
allowed to come to our show whenever he wants. This is bullshit. Rob, all he has to do is jump on, and we love to have Rob on. So
No, that's all right. No, you had a good setup going. I just wanted to tell Kelsey directly how I felt about her stuff, which is good, damn good work.
Rob, I was busting your hump, but on top of that, Mike and I got lots of comments on Facebook about what a great show it was, but there was too much Mike and Eric.
except that we talk too much.
I
Except we talked way too much. That's what everybody said. But
I didn't want to
listened to that
bust your
show
balls
today.
about that, but yeah, there was like, when's Kelsey going to get to speak?
There was a little of
Fanboys
that.
are
I was
gonna
thinking the same
fanboy.
thing. I was thinking the same
that's
thing.
just
It was-
our show, man. That's our show. We try to tell you, look, we're not professionals. We're not going to do the show everybody else did, where they all ask you a bunch of questions and they nod and smile and they don't know what they're talking about. They're just asking our questions. We wanted to get personally involved in the conversation, and that's just what we do all the time. So, and she was fine with it. I talked to her afterwards. She loved it. She had a great time.
Well, you were praising her. Of course, she was having a great time. You guys were
well, that's how you do it, baby.
I would go,
that's how it works.
That's backdoor salesmanship, Rob.
Hey, I wanted to say one thing. What you guys were talking about, and you're talking, and so this is just something that you got. I mean, everybody knows, but there's power in language, and so what people do for power is they invent terms and invent language, and unfortunately, it gets ridiculous because what we've seen in the last 5 years is the reduction of the term Nazi to a joke, and because that used to be an insult. It was kind of like communist. If you called somebody a communist in the 50s, my mom said that was the worst thing you could call anybody in the 50s was a communist. You communist, and that was fighting words. It's fisticuffs time. The problem is anything like that gets overused, it gets devalued. And that's what like, for instance, what's happened to Nazi. Nazi is so ridiculous now because people call people Nazi because your dog crapped on my yard. You didn't clean it up. You dirty Nazi. I mean, and so this is what the whole thing with language now, with the whole problematic thing, it's these are all made up terms for power, because if you make up a term that means exactly what you say it means, then you can safely ignore everybody else. And I'll give you an example. Totally the term microaggressions. Now, yes, can you be disrespectful and mean to somebody without really meaning to do it? Of course you can. It probably happens all the time. But the fact they had to invent a term for it, then that term became so broad that it basically means you were mean to me. That's what it boils down to. You were mean to me, or I thought you were mean to me. That's what microaggressions mean now. It's basically, it's becoming a meaningless term also. I sit next to your desk and you're constantly microaggressioning me. Well, what am I doing? Well, when you eat your bag of chips, you're rattling, you're crunching on them too hard, and you eat your ice and you crunch on that. That's what it's come down to, where it should have been something like, well, yeah, I'm being oppressed because I'm female or this that. No, now it's because I just don't like the things you do, and so you're microaggressioning me. And that's what we're seeing now in gaming is these just ridiculous terms are getting thrown around like problematic that don't really have a meaning. What problematic means in the cases that Eric and I have had to deal with the last few days is it's something I don't like, and I want you to assume it's something terrible. But in no case that Eric and I have seen in the last few days has anybody described exactly what is problematic about this behavior. And that is very telling to me. Because there is no right explanation for what problematic means or doesn't mean in this circumstance.
It's tribalism. Basically, here,
power
like case in point. If you look at a proper, you go to dinner and you have your fork on your left, your knife and spoons on the right. Well, that used to be an arcane secret of the upper class. They came up with all these rituals, and you really see this in the period pieces and stuff like that. But all that elaborate rituals that like we consider good manners, at least as far as that kind of stuff goes, those were all like a game they played to exclude like the middle class, the poor, because they didn't know. Well, we're just seeing our generation's version of that happen with it. I go over to the forum, the Facebook group, the OS-R RPG. I mean, it's a lot of people agreeing on a lot of things in a similar way, and there's a lot of groupthink going on there. It's not a lot of critical thinking going on there, just as when you look at the more right-wing OSI groups, there's not a whole lot of critical thinking going on there, and everybody designing their, coming up with their own words, their own mannerism. And if you say the wrong thing in the wrong way, and it may be trivial, they're just going to beat you on so hard that you don't want to join the group. And they are happy with that.
It's beyond tribal, Rob. It's a power grab. That's what it is.
Well, there's a transfer to this also to the other side, because a lot of people use the word woke without it really. Okay, what do we mean by I'm woke? Well, it just means you're woke. Well, what does that mean? And they can't describe exactly what woke stands for. It's an insult. It's an insult among certain groups, and both groups I know have this. But I think we'd be much better off if we could actually sit there and describe things and not be fucking lazy and just say, they just throw these terms around without actually just saying, look, here's the behavior that I don't like about you. And I think Eric does a good job, for instance, when he talks about his very complicated relationship with Zach Smith. And it is very complicated. And it's gone on for almost a decade, or for a decade or more now, where we both acknowledge he's a talented writer, but we both also acknowledge he's a piece of shit. And so those are not two mutually exclusive things. You can do that. I mean, he hated me first. I think Chinatown's
one of the. I have not had a pleasant interaction with Zach yet, although he never.
Well, you haven't agreed with him. You have to agree with him. If you agree with him, you'll have a very pleasant interaction with Zach. You just have to tell him he's right.
Even if I wasn't agreeing or disagreeing, it wasn't pleasant. It was obviously, it was.
But I think we all acknowledge he's a talented writer, correct? I mean, we don't like him as a human being, any of us. And so there's no reason that you can't have both those diametrically opposed opinions, which actually aren't really diametrically opposed. And so people flip out when you dare to say, well, you don't hate everything about this guy because he's a miserable human being. And my example is Chinatown. I think Chinatown's one of the greatest movies of the 20th century. Roman Polanski is a piece of shit human being. He's a pedophile. He's a pedophile piece of garbage human being. And, but that doesn't mean that I don't think Chinatown's an incredible, great movie. It is. But I can have both those opinions. That doesn't mean I like Roman Polanski. It just means I think Chinatown's great. And people don't parse that like that anymore. They don't get it. They're so tunnel visioned that they can't understand, well, this guy that's a bad person, he did do this thing that's good. Or this guy that's a good person did this thing that was bad.
I'm gonna look back and
live in a small town for 5 decades, and you'll see how timeless that is.
I'm gonna rewind this later after the show's over, because I want to see where it was that Eric's revealed by the look on his face that he's getting demonetized. Was it the 8 or 9 uses of the other N word?
You missed the knowledge, but when we were getting demonetized, we got demonetized, I think, when Phil was still on.
Really?
Oh, good. I don't feel bad now.
What do
I
we
have
get
no idea.
monetized for?
Yeah,
We are limited monetization.
Independent thought, Rob. Independent
I wasn't
thought.
even here either, so I ain't taking the blame for this one. I was just texting in, man.
But Matt was here. Matt usually demonetizes us just by his appearance.
And by the way, Eric, we need to start having Kelsey on the show every other week. How much money did we make the other night, Wednesday night, from people who are gratefully tipping us for having Kelsey on there?
Yeah. Nice.
Hold on, I'll let you know in a second.
Because when Rob was on our show, we didn't get any tips. I don't know. I mean, you can just parse that out of your life.
So for some strange reason, even though I would have thought with Luke, we would have gotten more. I think the $100 tip was rejected by the system because we got
that's
60.
Too bad.
That night we made $64.26.
Nice, man.
Nice.
Beer money at fucking North Texas was good.
Kelsey brought in $85.51. So I might have to buy around for a couple of us, including Kelsey and her spouse.
And I mean, none of the shows Eric does. I mean, we never stump for money ever one bit. I mean, it's just something. If you want to throw us a few bucks,
yeah,
great.
I mentioned that.
I don't see it. I mean, I don't see
well, I have a suggestion with Kelsey, not directly with her, but talk to her and see who else she knows that she considers good, and start inviting those people on the show. Let's get the younger crowd, more of a presence on our show. I mean,
well, look how young this show is now. I mean, it's a bunch of 50, 60-year-old guys here. No, I agree. No, well, I mean, to stump for the con a little bit, that's one thing we tried to do this year at North Texas. We have obviously Kelsey's a special guest. We also have Ben Barsh, Bill's son, and we have Keelan Halverson, who's a great young artist. He goes by the name of Wonky, but his art stuff's great because, look, these old guys. Tim Cass did his last North Texas last year, and he just can't make the trip anymore because he's old. He's old, and we're all getting there. And so, yes, we're trying to get younger. But I think you're right, Rob. We should start promoting the younger people in the hobby. And by the way, you say Kelsey's young. She's young compared to us because I called her a young lady once when we were having a private conversation. She said, "Well, I'm in my 30s." And it's like, well. Okay, but you're a young lady to me because I'm
20 years younger than I am. So.
Yeah. I mean, I got somebody lives next door.
Okay.
25 and 26, and I called them kids. The kids next door. All the time.
But I think that helps. I think that does help the hobby, and there's some great younger voices in the hobby right now. Like I said, and when I say younger, I mean not our age, not our generation, 60s, 50s. Right. There's some good people out there that are younger, and you'll probably start seeing a lot of those people at North Texas in the next few years, definitely. But you're right, Rob. It is good to have that different, especially people that are younger into old school. I'm always fascinated. That's why I asked Kelsey a lot of questions I did about, what was her favorite old school module, this and that, because I always find that a fascinating journey, how someone who missed out on that whole thing, because we grew up with it. I mean, we were there. I mean, we can't know what it's like to grow up and then have first edition already over with and second edition already over with. I mean, and so I'm always fascinated by why do people come around to that when that's not anything they grew up with.
I never played any of this stuff when I was young, Mike. I mean, I'm 42 in a couple of weeks. And I started out when second edition was in full swing and it was on Skills and Powers time.
So mid-90s.
I've made the case before. I think that's why one of the things I did in my game was in the first chapter really write like this is the principles of why I like old school play better than the new way. Detailing like these are the things that are different. This is why, because I feel like we don't articulate that enough and make a case to people that it's not just I like to play these games because they're nostalgic. Most of the stuff happened before I was born. I don't play it because I have a nostalgia for it. I play
it exactly
for a specific reason.
And I find that's what interesting. That's what I like about Kelsey is that she can articulate that. But I think that is important is that we figure out why do these people want to play this when this is not, like you said, this is not a nostalgia thing. They didn't grow up with this at all.
Well, ask them why they like it too, but also we want to highlight their take on it because that's.
Whoa, he froze.
Rob froze in a great moment.
There's cake on it. It sounds.
I'm sorry, I froze there. Kelsey with Shadow Dark brought something to the OSR that wasn't there before. So will the next person, the next gentleman, the next lady. They all bring these unique visions, and that's where we'll find new ideas for our own stuff as well.
Well, yeah, I've had the most sales of my game since I started doing Shadow Dark stuff because people come in that are not normally in my orbit. And
There'll be a lot more.
You owe us a beer, Greg, because Garrick and I have been pimping the hell out of you the last few years too. Because I love your Dark Sun. Your Dark Sun version's awesome.
Did you get the update today?
No, I did not.
I added a whole bunch of stuff to the PDF today, and I basically finalized it to finally send it to print. There were some things that I really wanted to get around to doing that I didn't get done in time for when I actually released it. I had a second update after the first file with a bunch of monsters in it, and then today's update filled all sorts of encounter tables with those monsters and added all that extra content out to the back of the book. And added treasure tables, which I had neglected the first time. So stuff like that. And now it can move to actually print. This is going to be the first book I've tried to print digest style through Drive Through RPG. Sure. So we'll see how that works out. Nice. Well, the Shadow Dark layout's at 13.5 point font when you're a
See, that's just pandering to us old fuckers. That's why. That's a very smart move.
No kidding.
No more 6-point font like the old stuff or whatever the hell that was.
Well, the thing about Shadow Dark that makes it so interesting is it's not necessarily. It's bringing OSR style gaming to the 5e, and what's just interesting to me is nobody really ever tried that before because it seems like a natural progression. Okay, well let's do this old school style 5e, but nobody did it, and maybe she's just a
actually somebody has.
Who is that, Rob?
They didn't do as good as Kelsey though. Dungeon-esque. It's a game called
Dungeon-esque. You're right. Yes, Dungeon-esque. That was by Stan Shin and Rogue Comet, and I know that because that's actually a set. Steve Winter uses that set. He loves it because he says it's a very easy to run version of 5e. But they didn't change the rules of Rob. They just made the rules easier to do. That they made the rules 5e-ish, but they didn't add any like Kelsey stuff where darkness is scary and you know what I'm saying. They didn't have any rules changes.
And the layout was far more dense, and it's not. So as a result, the book is not as approachable as Kelsey's book.
What's on the outside of the can is as important as what's on the inside of the can.
Dungeon-esque is actually not a bad version of 5e. If you want to really dumb 5e down for people like me, it's really good. But Kelsey just took this mythic Underdark thing that we used to talk about a lot in the early aughts, the mythic underground, and she just transferred that to, well, let's do this with 5e, and it just hit and of course everything really worked out great for her because at that point WotC decided to torpedo themselves, and hey, let's just drop some hot coals down our pants just for no reason at all.
Best timing of anything I've ever seen in my life.
No kidding.
And talent and hard work that got her there too. But
yeah, we talk about that a lot. Yeah, Alex or Eric and I talk about that. It's just the fact that. Is the fact that she somebody came here to try to deliver an order of Chinese food. Maybe there was something good in there. Because I'm parked in a parking lot.
You should have taken the Chinese food, man.
I've been taking it. I'm hungry over here. No, but it probably was. But I think the guy the guy would have. He's huge. He'd have kicked my ass. That's his Chinese food. Yeah.
Hey, I used to work at a convenience store chain named Wawa a long time ago. This chain called Wawa on the East Coast, and there was also a Chinese restaurant named the Wawa Chinese Restaurant in the same town I used to work at. We'd get the orders all the time. Can I get an order egg rolls? And I put on my best Chinese accent, and I take the whole order, write it all down, give them a price. Tell you how many fucking times I did that.
God, that's a microaggression right there. That's definitely a microaggression.
That was such a dick. It was fun.
No, but Eric and I, we made the point with the Kelsey is that, and I told my wife this too. My wife was really impressed with Kelsey last night. That's a tough for my wife because she thinks most gamers are geeks. But she said, well, she's got brains and this. And I said, well, her deal was she has been doing this a long time. This is not a flash in the pan person. This is somebody who worked on her skill a long time. She's got videos going back, 3 years, 3-4 years, and that's what makes this so good. Is that this isn't just something that was just tossed together, and you could definitely tell the quality is there in the product. So it just hit perfectly, and she happens that she's a really nice person, and I love the way she basically does these crowd things where she gets on a Discord and says, okay, we're going to create a Ranger character. What do we need to do? That was
cool.
That's very cool. I don't really know why more gaming companies don't do that. I mean, I think that's a great idea. That really invests people in your company, because they can sit there and say, hey, we did this crowd thing where we did a barbarian, and I was in it. I was in it too. It was awesome. I was part of this. Oh, they're coming to get me for taking that guy's Chinese food.
Oh
shit! I didn't even take his. I didn't take his Chinese food. He's got his food.
Look at, he's got the lights going too.
Yeah, the lights on his face.
I'm trying to class up this joint. I'm trying to make this exciting.
Back to some actual gaming idea here, Mike. What do you think is the threshold for somebody's reputation before they can really launch a successful Kickstarter? Like, how much do you think they need in the community? Because certainly you can't do it with no name at all.
I do think you need a community, because I look back on even people like Greg Gillespie, and I know a lot of people don't. This is going back 10 years, but Greg even had a little community going before he released Barrel Maze. And I don't know if anybody remembers, Barrel Maze wasn't released all at once.
Nope.
It was half of it was released. He had to kickstart it. And then once the first half came out, he did Barrel Maze 2, which was the second half of it.
That's right.
So
that's right.
he worked his community really well, and now Barrel Maze is a really good community also. You go there, there's tons of ideas, and it's not just Barrel Maze, it's about all his mega dungeons. But I really think you need to build that community. If you look at Kelsey started her Discord in 2017, so that's what, 6 years ago. I mean, I think I would tell people that's what you need to do is get a community together, go on Discord, start a Discord, get people interested in it, start a Facebook page. You have to do that, just that work, that grunt work. And a lot of people don't want to do that. And I understand that people, especially gamers, a lot of them are introverts, and they're like, I don't want to do that stuff. And I've met some of them. I know some that just don't want to do that. I say, why don't you have a social media presence? I just don't want to do it. And I think it hurts them. And I'll give you an example. Labyrinth dude.
Yeah, he disappeared for 10 fucking years or whatever.
Yes, and he's still not really. I mean, Eric and I are blocked from his page, and we don't even know why. It doesn't make any sense. But we're blocked.
OSC just ate his cake. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. But he tried to come back, and he's trying to. But he's still not socially adept enough to figure out what he needs to do. And actually, Gavin and OSC, he did a great job too. He's done a great job of promoting himself.
When I talk about how the OSR is and how low the barrier is, and then they go immediately, there's some guy 3 or 4 posts down the line said, Rob, you're painting some utopia. And then I tried to explain to him, no, it's not an utopia, because to take advantage of this, you have to be personable enough to talk to people, because people will buy products from authors they like.
Yeah.
And the only way they're going to like you if you talk to them like we're talking to each other now. And and I'm sorry to say, but if you're so much of an introvert that this is making you uncomfortable, what we're doing here, then it's going to be tougher for you to make your mark in this environment.
But what you can also
do that without
Rob,
talking to anybody in social media. I mean, that's a plus. But I mean, you can make an RPG in a Word document. People just aren't willing to put in the work. That's the bottom line. That's the only
but you can also get somebody else to do it for you. You don't have to do all the work yourself. I mean, in Kelsey's case, her wife is a marketer. That's what she does. She does marketing. And so and if you look at Shadow Dark, it's incredibly well marketed. I mean, it's just absolutely marketed well. And so if you get somebody to do that, it's like, let's say you want to work at Frog God. You're like, I want to work at Frog God Games. But I don't really want to promote my product. That's what you do. You go work for a smaller company like that. They do all the promotions, and you just do the writing. If you want to do something like that, that works also. But you need to have something there. I've seen some really, really good products just not really crash and burn, but just kind of disappear because the person wasn't up to the challenge of doing the social media aspect of it, of promoting their own material.
Sure. I mean, there's a minimum level that you have to deal with. You don't have to be blogging all the time or thing, but you have to have some social media presence so people get to know you and get a face behind the author's name.
Hey, speaking of
Greg, right now, I was gonna say right now, Greg Gillespie's crowdsourcing his rule book. He's on his Barrel Mage page. Said, "Okay, what do I need to put in my rule book?" I mean, that's great. You go to the community, ask them. Now I know Greg, and he's probably gonna say, "Everybody, no, I don't like your ideas." Knowing Greg, no, I'm just giving Greg a hard time. But I mean, that's the kind of thing you do. That's great. I mean, you make people feel part of your process. Then,
speaking of
sit there and say,
community,
hey, what can I do?
Check out Eric, 2,900 subs. Dude, you closed it in on 3, right? What do you got going on for your 3,000? What are you going to do? Oh, you're muted, man. Stunned him into silence with the number.
I think I'm going to shave my body on camera.
Sorry, I muted so I could yell to Rach before. 2915 is the exact
2915, dude.
When you get your little plaque, what number did you?
Oh no, no, I don't know, like 10,000,
like 50,000, I think.
Yeah, we're not. Trust me, we're not going to be there. However, what is good to know is that this keeps on growing. The Facebook group, even with some angry voices who will remove themselves or the occasional banning, is steadily growing, and it is growing well. So I am very happy with the community that this group has helped to build. Honestly, I mean, it's I might be the face, but I mean, it isn't just me, because
you need your cohorts. You need cohorts.
But that's why
your cronies. Yeah, we're your cronies.
Cronies. That's what it was.
Yeah.
But I mean, because honestly, when I got a chance to actually name this channel, and a few people going, "Oh, cool, Eric 10 Car channel," like, no, it's got to be 10 Cars Tavern. It's like, why? Because that's a community. The tavern is a community. Yep. That's why. I mean, in all honesty, if I could find ways to have Rob have a solo once a week show on this, I'd be thrilled, because I think Rob showing things like Black Marsh or his other projects as a work in progress would be something that people would actually enjoy.
Well, but tell him she's do the Sandbox series already, but I don't know. You want to finish the writing of the last episodes on the blog, Rob, or something before you start the first video of it? Or
actually, my only fear or concern about any of this is doing it on a regular basis. If I can't feel that I can do it periodically, it doesn't have to be every week. It's just I need to do it, set a schedule, and I don't know. Yeah. With the way my life is at the moment, I don't know if I can hold to any kind of reasonable schedule. I'm not even blogging as much. I have that box beside me, guys, but I kind of mined it for all my ready-to-use content years ago.
Rob, here's the way you do it, all right? You put half dozen episodes in the can, no matter how long they take. You release them as live premieres, which means that they're like a live stream. You can interact with people. You can put up their comments, but you don't. You're live. It's already been recorded, and I think that way you can interact with the community. They can ask you questions about what you're doing, and you can answer in the chat. I think that might be a very good way for you to do this. I mean,
that's what I do a lot. It gets better views, I think, too, when you advertise ahead of time with a premiere live stream kind of a thing. You know what I mean? So I'm in there and I just talk to the people as they're watching if I can. Yeah,
well, Rob is also a bit of a perfectionist, which is good. That's why his final output is really substantial. But Rob sits there and perfects and perfects and perfects, and I don't, I mean, I think that's a big thing that holds you back from the social media thing, Rob, because I think you feel like it has to be perfect when it goes out, but it doesn't.
Yeah,
I mean, people are okay with seeing the work in progress or incomplete. But yeah, I mean, I'm not. I'm trying to, I think it's just the way I'll go for long periods where I do like no production at all, and then I'll have a crazy intense level of production. So I know what you mean about not being able to sit to a fixed schedule.
I do the same thing with my videos, Rob. Sometimes I'll do 3 or 4 a week, and I'll record. I'll take a Sunday afternoon. I'll record 4 of them. And I do what Eric just said, and you'll see one new one every day, popping out on the live premiere. And then I'll go 3 weeks without doing any because of life. Shit happens. You know what I mean? Stuff.
We'll see how my other. other project that I'm involved with pans out. But
It doesn't take much, Rob. I mean, what the hell do I have here?
Not everybody is going to be Jackass 10 car, making sure there's a video a day and a blog post a day.
Yeah. Rob, I
Yeah.
got 55 videos and I got 1,600 people with 55 fucking
well,
videos.
I'll tell you another
You know?
thing that's changed for me from my early days. I keep up with politics and all and world events and stuff, and I'm just tired of all the negativity. And except for when anything dealing with open content, stuff, I just don't want to be critical of people. I rather show
Don't be critical.
Well, let me finish. There's more to the statement. I rather show, not tell, and I just have to complete the work I'm doing, and keep up, plug away at my writing. And it doesn't have to be. I don't think my work is perfect when I'm done with it. It's just complete for the purpose I set for it. Like right now, this thing that's behind me that I was writing for Shadow Dark, I'm writing up how to do naval battles. That's really the only major. There's only 2 pieces left. Doing naval battles because that's important to the subject matter, merchant adventures I'm covering, and then I'm going to do take my Black Marsh and a little bit of what I'm working on into the Majestic Waterland, and have a little bit of like a traveler style subsector where you can actually have a setting to use my rules in, which won't take much, but
Rob,
the naval battles is what I'm working on. And
if you just said everything that you just said, Rob, other than you said it in 2 minutes. If you just showed everybody in an 8-minute video, you know what I mean, and go into more detail, you have a video channel all set. I don't believe it or not. I believe I agree with you on the whole negativity thing. Other than a couple of videos when I was slamming, on the 1D&D, OSR, OGL, blah 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 bullshit, my videos I think are pretty positive. I'm just saying, here's what I do, here's what's going on, and here's what I like. And
I shouldn't have used negativity. I should say I'm not as interested in commentary, as much as I was used to.
Just show them what you're doing. Just expand upon that 2-minute thing you just gave us, and show some pictures and screen shares.
Yeah,
that kind of
shit.
shit.
I'm not telling you what to do, Rob, but if you just took a Shadow Dark layout and threw all of the Black Marsh stuff into a Shadow Dark layout and released it for $1 or something like that, yeah, just to put it out there so that when people search for Shadow Dark hex map or whatever, they'll get your thing.
Well, that's a good point. No, that's a good point. So there's 2 things. So if I was to do my Majestic Waterland, but with a different setting attached to it, but pretty much that format of that supplement, I could do that for Shadow Dark, and I would be fine with that. But if I was going to do something like Black Marsh for Shadow Dark, I would want to do at least one of them, and initially the first one, keeping in the themes that Kelsey explored in her rule book, riff off of that rather than shoehorn my stuff on top of that. I mean, I will do that eventually, but I want to establish that I know how to play by their rules.
You could leave all the, because unless my memory is failing me on Black Marsh, I'm pretty sure there's a ton of hexes that are just empty, right?
Yeah.
It's not every hex is not keyed, correct? Okay. So you could say these are the hexes that I've keyed, and when you go into a hex that's not, use Kelsey's random system to populate with whatever's in there.
Yeah, easy enough.
And then you would already have enough of it done that the people could have more kind of plot and story stuff rather than pure randomness. But they would have something written out for those hexes, and then everywhere else they're doing it random. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you could throw that together. I don't know how fast you work. I mean, it's already written.
I have a blog post, which I'm not going to show, but I do have a blog post that exactly spells out exactly how long it took me to do Black Marsh.
Hey guys, I got to drop. I'm just going to say goodbye real quick. I got to drop. Okay. Thank you guys. Good conversation. Sorry I was a little late there. I got a lot to do. This is like a shitty busy weekend. So Mother's Day and everything. So happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there listening.
Joe, you're a mother.
I'm a mother fudger.
Yeah.
All right.
And I really appreciate everybody's encouragement. I'll get off my butt and
do it, Rob. Do it.
Do it. Don't be Matt Jackson, all right? Don't be Matt.
I'm not mad. I'm working on stuff. Actually working on stuff.
I'm just saying. That's all.
And the
Rob
proof in
actually
the pudding
played
is Greg
campaign.
played.
Yeah, I play in his campaign. He's not mad. What are you talking about? How many?
I
many
feel
sessions
bad.
have
Matt
we
should be
had?
here defending himself.
Yeah. Matt can't get a campaign through 5 sessions. How many sessions have we had in City State?
I have the exact number. Let me pull up my tracker here. So I am not a paragon of record keeping, folks, but I do make the effort of at least right clicking and say we had a session on this day. So according to this, we have 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 20.
So we've already
1,
well
2,
surpassed
3,
Matt.
4, 5, 6, 7.
When he counted
8,
3, I think he surpassed.
9,
Yeah, that's
30.
right.
Okay, so we had last week we had our 31st. This week we had our 31st session.
That's 10 times longer than a Matt Jackson campaign.
Okay.
See, so don't worry about it. Yeah, I mean, like that's the thing. You got to just. To me, it's a matter of, and this is the same case I make to Joe about Blood Island. I wish he'd still been here to hear this, but yeah, he's already doing the work. So put it in layout and put it out there for other people. You know, like why do the work and then just put it on a shelf? You know, even if only some people buy, at least it's available to people. You don't have to make a big marketing campaign and move a ton of units.
No, that's not what.
Yeah. I'm not saying you're interested in moving a ton of units or whatever. Yeah.
I have an outline for each of the things I do that makes it useful. My criteria is usefulness. I don't want to waste anybody's time reading my material. I want it to be useful to them. And I come up, not to brag, but use my experience to come up with the outline that I think that's not too ambitious, but still is useful. And then that's what I write. And I won't release it until that outline is filled out properly. And, so hence that Merchant Adventures one, the last 2 parts are the Gazette, an economic gazetteer, so people have something concrete to see how they can lay out the trade system in their own setting, and the naval combat. And yes, I could make a video on that, and perhaps I will, because there's a lot of math. As I showed you, Greg, there's some math behind that.
Yeah. Well, I found treasure to be the most difficult thing in adapting the Shadow Dark stuff.
Oh yeah,
so much lower than what's in OSR D&D, and you really have to adjust. That was part of the work that I did today, was coming up with what would actually be the 20 to 30 gold piece treasure table, so that you could actually put something out. Because
no,
much
she has
equipment
silver
has
pieces,
surpassed.
right?
She does have silver pieces you can find, and I put those in my Dark Sun game. There's a chit, which is this is ceramic coins from in Dark Sun. So a chit is worth 10 bits. So there's basically a silver piece lower than that.
Well, what I'm saying is you can get a more diverse range if you just multiply her gold pieces by 10 and call them silver pieces, and you can build a better table off of that, because it's hard to the narrow range of some of her treasure is a little hard to work with. But if suddenly you multiply it by 10, then you can make something that's 253 versus 123.
Yeah. Eric, you're on mute again.
Thank you. Jesus. I think on that note, we lost Mike to the vastness of space.
I think he got picked up by the Pinkertons.
Could have. We'll find out in the morning. We lost Joe, not to his bladder this time, but to early morning rising. Matt dropped. Of course, Phil. We knew Phil probably wasn't going to make the full episode, and that was fine. Shit! The cat's puking behind my chair. Well, that's going to stay for a while, because I can't get behind it. Fuck. All right, so folks, on my wonderful future tonight of having to clean up cat puke, I think it's a good place for us to bow out. Holy shit. Folks, Thank you to Phil Reed. That's the link down there. If you want a quick link to his current Kickstarter, $5 gets you to buy in a PDF, which is currently 3 PDFs about magic items, likely a 4th one if he hits that last stretch goal. Live stream tomorrow night, Rach and I. Some Mother's Day shit we'll probably think of. I don't know. Other than that, be safe, be well, God bless, roll those dice, roll them well. Hopefully manana. Good night, folks.
Thank you for playing.